Two Beards Reviews, reviewing Welcome to Wrexham, episode 12, The Hand of Foz. Let's go. G'day, beard brethren, Sheilas, fuckheads, and just all round legends. Welcome to another review episode of Welcome to Wrexham, episode 12, Hand of Foz. Let's see those
There it
hands.
is. There it is. There it is. That's what I was hoping for.
I'm your host, Rousey. This is Adrian. We're going to be reviewing episode 12 today. So if you like this episode, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and link tree to all our socials and Patreon program are just down below. So we're going to jump right into this episode because there's a bit going on. Adrian, what did you think, mate?
Oh, it's one of those things like, as Wrexham fans, it lives in the memory. And you really hope that that memory holds up, because, I know it was only last year, but you worry that the nostalgia might, or sorry, not last year, but like 6 months ago, but like it feels like, you don't want to lose that same memory that you have that it was this amazing thing. And boy, did they do it justice.
Oh, they did. They definitely did. So the episode obviously kicked off with the boys. They were playing the dreaded Halifax game. But what I did kind of like with this is it showed a bit more behind the scenes. It showed a bit more in the change room, talking to the boys, geeing it up. And you did kind of get the impression that they were looking beyond Halifax. They weren't really
Yeah.
focused on them, which
Yeah.
kind of makes sense, which with why they pulled off that performance right before that Easter long weekend. So obviously it built up to the Halifax game, and
It was honestly, that Halifax game was an absolute shit show. And if it sounds silly, but I actually feel like I got closure from that game. Now I feel like you said, it is like that behind the scenes thing of like, oh, that's why we were shit. Like, it's Paul Mullen said, like, as soon as the Halifax like last whistle went, all he was thinking about was knots. And like for me, that just makes me, I know it sounds silly, but now that it's paid off, you're happy that that's happened. If it didn't pay off, shit hits the fan, and we're all asking questions. But you're right. They were looking at bigger fish.
yeah, they were definitely, the eyes weren't on that Halifax game, and I think that was quite evident with what they showed. Yeah, so they obviously built up around that a lot. And then, I mean, I felt they spent probably about half the episode on the Halifax game and the build up to that, and then probably another little bit of the episode, the middle part of the episode was the build up to the Notts County game, the famous Notts County game, the biggest game in National League history. And well, it was all right.
I think it was well paced. It was well paced. I think they had to show
Yeah.
almost not the heartache, because it wasn't like they get, like they said like Wayne Jones said in the doco. Wayne, the owner of the turf, basically said, we were on a 26 unbeaten streak. One loss does not mean panic stations, and he was supremely confident we would win the league. And I understand where the panic sets in as a Wrexham fan. We lived through it. We really lived through that panic.
Boy, did we ever.
But that start of that game, it shows exactly what I felt. And I know that there's a Wrexham bias when they edit it. But do you remember how many fucking offsides? Yeah, go for it.
Can I just ask you, like, do you feel that you just wanted to see a little bit more of the Notts County game?
Yes, towards the end. And I'll get into that because that's a very good point. But like just even the start of it, I felt like they actually did a really long piece on how many offsides there were. So that's what kind of the conclusion of what I was saying before, which was, there was a lot of offsides, and they weren't. There were a lot of free kicks that should have been given to us. They weren't. And the refereeing was appalling. And you know what? Seeing Parky going off his lid, maybe we fixated on that a little bit more than we should have, to then cut, especially like, and we'll get into it, but some of the goals later on felt shorter. And I felt like there was a reason for it. And I feel like the reason was they were ramping up. So they go slower. Okay, now we're ramping up quick, and they're crescendo of being, the Hand of
Yeah.
Foz. So I
It did
get it.
It did kind of feel that way towards the end, like they were trying to squeeze it
Just
all in, and
get
and
it all,
that's not
get it
to
all
take
through.
away from how epic that moment was, but I think if anything, that's probably going to factor into my final rating here today.
Mhm.
But yeah, so they obviously showed the Notts County game, which was absolutely epic. Loads of offsides, loads of drama. Late last half goal from Bostock and all that
That
showing
was a
penalty
perler.
kick.
Like, I
That
wanted
was
to
a
hate him. At the time,
worldie.
I fucking hated him. But seeing it again, I was like, fuck, that was a worldie
Mm.
of a fucking free. But probably my favorite out of this, and I know we're going to talk about it just after this in 2 seconds, but the goal, obviously the first goal, getting back into it, you know, it felt right. Paul Mullen, it felt the same way it felt the night that it happened. I was like, shit, we're back into this. And seeing Ryan and Rob kind of embrace and go, yeah, here we go. And Rob kind of leant to the camera going, one. Like, he's like, it's gonna be, he
Yeah.
knew it was gonna be a goal fest. And but probably my favorite, and just Jacob Mendy's goal is still one of my most favorite Wrexham memories, and it's purely for that lead up. And I'm upset because they didn't include the commentary that from the original telecast of the moment. They did it afterwards, where they said, there's that racecourse roar again, but they
Mm.
didn't put when they said, "Here comes Mendy," and that roar when that happened.
Mm.
That's what I missed. And I'm not discrediting our great friend Mark Griffiths, but I just felt like, fuck, that's the memory. That's the little thing I clinged on to, and I
Yeah.
was waiting for it.
Yeah, it was hard not to get excited with that, because I mean I quite enjoyed that commentator in that episode. So I mean, yeah, and then obviously they played a bit around the Hand of Foz, but that was the bit that felt a little bit rushed. I think they could have done that a bit better.
Correct.
Like, because that was such an epic moment. Like, it was
Mm-hmm.
one of the most memorable moments, and I'll have that with me till the day I die now. Um, and it just felt a little bit rushed. Like there was more. Like, I remember when we were watching it all unfold, and seeing all the videos come up on Twitter of people were in tears and just like shock and excitement, and like it was wow, like fuck it,
Mm.
wow. And then yeah, it just felt in the
A little
episode
lackluster.
a little lackluster, because yeah. So yeah, so
It's
but
hard to live up to
overall,
that. It's
overall,
hard
it
to live
was
up
an
to it.
enjoyable episode. I think
Yeah.
it was a worthwhile episode. It did weigh the importance of that Notts County game. You did sort of get
Mm.
that, and you saw the inside and a lot of behind the scenes, which is what we've been asking for every single episode. Is we want more behind the scenes. We want to see what these guys get up to, what they do, and I felt that we got that in this episode. So I think without beating around the bush, we should probably give our ratings, Adrian.
Well, I mean,
Um,
it's a pretty quick episode if you think about it. I
yeah,
feel like we're a bit rushed talking about it.
well, I
But
mean, it was 25 minutes. Well, no, that was a 40-minute episode, wasn't it?
yeah,
Mm,
yeah, it's interesting because, look, and I'll put my final notes and then you can give your rating. But my biggest thing was exactly what you mentioned. It is that pacing towards the end. It did feel a little bit rushed. Do you remember in last season when we lost to Grimsby and they did that thing where every time a goal went in, they kind of did like it slow mode down and they like did different angles and then they cut to a piece. I was kind of hoping for that when each goal went in, like especially, Paul Mullen, then getting him to talk about it and then it goes in. Then take a moment to talk about Jacob Mendy again, then talk about Ben Foster at the end. And I felt like we got it like almost like it felt like a news recap, you know, like you saw it, they said their comment, and then it was done. I would have loved that dramatic pause and finish, because that's what it felt like. When it happened, it felt slow. It felt like it built up. So that's my only detractor from it.
My whole world, my whole space and time continuum just fucking stopped.
Yeah.
And I was just, yeah, when that save happened, it was just pandemonium.
Yeah, for sure.
And they didn't quite show the heartbreak of the Knots fans too much either. Like, you know, there
I
was
feel like
that.
they were trying to be respectful, because, which fair enough. They like, you know, they didn't choose to be on the doco. The last thing they want to do is see that, because they were all over the news too. The sad people, you know, the ones with the hands on their heads looking like
Yeah,
this, you know, they were all over the
yeah.
news. So the last thing I want to do is see it 6 months later. So
Well, I think we will give it a rating. So Rousey's rating for this episode, I am actually going to go with a 9 out of 10. It was
yeah.
almost perfect, but not quite.
Yeah, look, I'm on a similar wavelength. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, which is still a supremely good score. I think for me, I had just, like I said, it's hard to live up to memories. You have an expectation with this. You want it to live up to it. And unfortunately for me, it didn't hit it exactly. It still was incredible, but I wanted to be tearing up at the end. I wanted to relive what I felt after the game, which was genuine tears. And I just didn't quite get there. But I know some others did. So look, if you have another opinion, you know, you had a different rating to me and Rousey, that's fair. Let us know in the comments, because we want to hear what you think, because that was an epic, epic episode.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let us know in the comments, guys. And please like, share, and subscribe the shit out of this, because the more we get the word out, the more fans we can probably turn over to Wrexham, which is what our goal is. But it helps us out a lot too. And yeah, well, there we go. 9 out of 10 for me, 8 out of 10 for Adrian. I'm Rousey. We are Two Beards. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Let's go.
See you later, guys.